If talking were an Olympic sport, I'd have a gold medal. I used to treat every conversation like a competition, and poor Ken didn't stand a chance. I believed my words could fix things, direct things, make us better. I didn't realize they were slowly wearing us down. Hi, I'm Amanda, and today on How to Keep Your Man, we're talking about that sneaky habit that sounds intelligent, but feels lonely, talking over your husband instead of with him. I grew up as the girl who always had the last word. In class debates, I lived for, actually, what you mean is... I equated being right with being respected. I thought if I didn't speak first, I'd lose something. My worth, my power, my dignity. But here's the truth. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay quiet and listen. Silence isn't surrender. It's strength under control. When I married Ken, I brought that I know better energy home. He'd tell a story, and before he finished, I'd jump in. No, that's not what happened. Or he'd share an idea, and I'd say, let's do it my way. At first he laughed. Then slowly, he went quiet. Because when one voice takes over, the other learns not to speak. And silence born from defeat? That's the saddest sound in a marriage. There's peaceful silence, and there's heavy silence. I didn't realize I was creating the heavy kind. One night in Atlanta, Ken told a sweet story about surprising me for our anniversary. His eyes were sparkling, until I interrupted. No, babe, it was the next weekend. Everyone chuckled, but his smile disappeared. The drive home? Silent. And if you know Atlanta traffic, that's saying something. I had turned our love story into a correction session. The man who once told me everything now measured every word like it was on trial. The thing is, we often interrupt to connect. Because we think fast, we're excited, we want to show we understand. But to a man, it doesn't sound like excitement. It sounds like erasure. Men equate being heard with being valued. So each interruption feels like, your voice doesn't count here. One Sunday after church, Ken finally said, Amanda, sometimes I don't talk anymore because I already know how you'll answer. He wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of fighting for space to speak. That day, I made a quiet promise. When I'm tempted to interrupt, I'll take a sip of water instead. By the end of the week, I was the most hydrated woman in Georgia, but something beautiful happened. I started hearing his thoughts again. I began noticing the emotion behind his words, the parts I'd been missing for years. Listening felt uncomfortable at first, like holding my breath underwater. But slowly, Ken started talking more stories, more laughter, more of him. And I discovered something magical. When you stop interrupting, you don't lose your voice, you gain his. One evening, he said, Babe, you've become so quiet lately. I said, No, love, I'm just listening. And the peace in his eyes said everything. My sisters, hear me. If you always talk over him, one day he'll stop starting sentences. He'll stop sharing dreams, jokes, fears. He'll keep them inside, or worse, give them to someone else. You don't have to agree with everything. You just have to let him finish. Every completed sentence says, I respect you. Love breathes through silence, too. Sometimes the most loving thing you can say is nothing at all. Now, when Ken talks, I remind myself, the goal isn't to win, it's to stay connected. And connection is built one quiet, intentional choice at a time. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it. And join me next week on How to Keep Your Man, as we unpack another silent destroyer of love, old wounds. Stay tuned.